Today, I'd like to talk about similarity reports. I'm sure we are all familiar with similarity reports, but probably we all experience some problems. How to interpret when we retrieve similarity reports? What about the content of my topic today? First, I'd like to refer to text matching softwares and why we changed the terminology from plagiarism detectors to text matching softwares. And then I'd like to move to our understanding of plagiarism, how to detect it, and what about the text matching software, how does it work, and how to retrieve the similarity report. And finally, with the help of some examples, I'd like to show how to benefit from similarity reports. Now, initially, let's try to understand what we mean, what a plagiarism detector used to mean to us, and what about a text matching software. Maybe Milan, as the developer of your software for the national software, maybe he would like to explain some aspects.
Difference is that text matching software only give you a similarity. How many words or characters similar with patterns? Plagiarism detection is not possible with software.
Okay.
It's possible only with a cooperation with software, and also someone who knows the content, who knows the domain. It's not possible, but in some cases, like copy-paste plagiarism, it is possible to determine that this passage of a text is plagiarized.
Thank you, Milan. Actually, it's the perfect answer. I mean, detection of plagiarism is something that a human being can do, not a tool or an online tool can do. But what about the text matching software? When it comes to text matching software, we try to use this terminology as a tool which helps us to identify matching indices in the text. In this respect, for example, when we recently search on the Google for the terms such as plagiarism detector, as you see, you will almost see nothing. I recognize only two items here. One, recognizing plagiarism detector software, blah blah, and the other one, 10 free plagiarism detection tools. When you pay attention to the date of publication here, it belongs to 2013. Actually, represents the changes in our understanding of turning the terminology from plagiarism detection to text matching software. For example, when we refer to Turnitin's previous explanations, they regarded themselves as plagiarism detection services. As we see, it was again in 2013, and later we changed this terminology. At that time, as individuals, what was our prior expectation from so-called plagiarism detectors? Okay, here is the assignment. We give the assignment to the machine and then retrieve a report indicating whether there exists plagiarism or not. That was the expectation of academics. However, later we realized that it doesn't work in this way. Instead, what happens? Okay, we submit the assignments and we retrieve a report that we call now as similarity reports. And then, as a human being, we work on the report in order to identify whether there exists plagiarism. Then, what's plagiarism? I'm sure we are all familiar with the terminology here. I'd like to highlight once more that when we refer to plagiarism, we are thinking about the ideas, works of any other materials that belong to someone else. However, using them in our own materials without giving the credit to the original authors. How common is plagiarism? If you are teaching, do you think that your students are plagiarizing? Are they? Yes. I realized that my students were plagiarizing only in 2010. Actually, they were cheating, but I had no idea about this. As you see, this is showing the number of plagiarizing students, and later I took some actions against preventing plagiarism. However, as you see, against all my concerns, some students are still trying to plagiarize. So, plagiarism exists. That is what we can understand from the characteristics of students. If it exists, then how can we detect it? Two common things that we can do. The first thing, Google search. It is possible to detect plagiarism by searching on the Google. However, it's going to be time consuming, I guarantee this. And the second alternative is benefiting from a text matching software. Now, when we Google search, we can identify the matches between the sources and the student submission that exist on the internet. But when it comes to text matching softwares, then we go beyond the internet sources and we have an opportunity of adding some other sources. And then we will retrieve a similarity report in a systematic way that we can see the matches. Then here I try to visualize how the system works here. This is the submitted assignment by the student, and this is the software repository. Usually they have several repositories, such as, for example, which is very similar to Google search. This is the internet repository, and the second one might be coming from periodicals, such as journals, and the third one is coming from student papers, your own student papers, and the fourth one might be coming from institutional repository. So it means that benefiting from a text matching software is advantageous because we can also deal with the other student papers, especially in our own institution, so we have greater chances of seeing the similarities. Okay then, what is a similarity report? The text matching software checks the student assignment against the repositories and then delivers a report in which we can identify the highlights that representing matches between the existing sources. That's what we call as a similarity report. Then as a teacher, if there are matches in the similarity reports, is this something good or something should be avoided? What shall we do? What do we do in case of seeing similarities in the or matches in the similarity indices? What action do we take?
We try to analyze what the similarity means.
Okay, that's great. What do we try to do? We try to analyze where the highlight, where the match is coming from. This is so important because we should have some similarities, such as, for example, if you ask your students to write a thesis, it means that the students should be benefiting from the other sources existing in the relevant literature. And there should be matches with the in-text citations, there should be matches with the reference entries, and also the terminology students using in the paper should be matching with the existing sources. So, similarities may not be indicating problems all the time. However, for some aspects, they might be the indicators of some problems. Before moving to specific examples, I'd like to call your attention to an example here. For example, turn it in here, provides some color matches. When we check the assignment inbox, we see that the student's portfolio is organized in a decreasing way with the accompany of the colors here. For example, blue color is representing no matches in the text, and then green color representing up to 24% matches, and then it goes on like this towards red. Okay, if we examine at the initial step, this might be the indicator of possible plagiarism. However, possible plagiarism. It is impossible to accuse student of plagiarism only by considering the numbers, I mean the similarity ratios that we retrieve here, or just vice versa. Having 0% similarity does not necessarily mean that there is no plagiarism. This is quite important. For example, I'll show you two examples from my classes. As you see, here they are in a descending order, and this is accompanied by the ratios here. They are all green, however, does not necessarily mean that there is no plagiarism among these students. And as you see, when we go further, this time we see the other colors. Okay, I see, for example, here red with a ratio of 99. As a lecturer, when I see a 99 similarity, this is an alarm, because usually this cannot happen. So I need to carefully check where the similarity is coming from. For example, a usual case in such an instance might be the student might be a retaker and might be allowed to revise the assignment. So the system might be showing the similarity with the previous assignment. So we need to carefully analyze where the similarity is coming from there. But be careful. The index, similarity index, might be misleading us. So all the time we need to go further here. Here I'd like to provide some explanation about the similarities. For example, the similarities refers to the matches between the submitted assignment and the existing sources. But the ratio, we never use the ratio. This is a problematic issue actually in my own country, and probably I believe that there are some other institutions in Europe which depend on the ratio, simple ratio, rather than examining the matches in terms of plagiarism-free submissions. In this case, we go back to Milan, and what we do here is retrieving the similarity report and benefiting from this report as a human being in order to understand plagiarism. Okay, here's an example. And the example shows what a similarity report is. This is the submission by the student and continues here. You see the sliding bar there. And this shows the match 63%, quite high match we have here. Probably it refers to a problematic issue in the paper. However, again, I cannot say this without checking the text. And we see the matches. Where do the matches come from? As you see, 60% of the match is coming from the same institution. So hugely benefiting from another assignment. Now our responsibility here is checking this assignment, whether the same student. What might be the possible alternatives here? The student might have an intention of submitting the same assignment or almost the same assignment for the two courses. Or the student might be retaking the course and then revising the assignment. So as the lecturer, we need to identify this. And if you allow the student to resubmit without a revision assignment, then we need to omit this source from the similarities, otherwise it's not going to be fair. Another example here, as you see, this time we have 55% matches. And this is different from the previous one, because as you see in the previous one, the huge amount of the similarity was coming from the same source. However, this time we see several blends of sources here. Is it possible to regard this as plagiarism? We see that student had an intention of changing only very few words in the text, had an intention of paraphrasing, but was not successful at paraphrasing them, so it is definitely plagiarism. However, the difference, as you see here, blending different sources. What about this one? Do we see any matches? Yes, we can recognize several small matches here. However, these matches are the terminologies, common words that we use in writing research papers, so we do not consider such matches as plagiarism. Although we have the ratio, for example, here 27, it doesn't necessarily mean that the student has plagiarized up to 27% of the paper here. If the rest of the paper is written in a similar manner, it means that there is no concern with regards to plagiarism here. Now, we can see here another type of plagiarism. This one I call as secondary source plagiarism. I mean, the student does not go to the library in order to find out the relevant sources. Instead, the student finds a good source which benefited heavily from the relevant literature. So, instead of going to the library, he reads one source and then says the other step as if she read the others. Here, for example, the student refers to uses in-text citation correctly, but indeed the student had no idea about this source. So as you see here, these are in-text citations, but coming from the other sources. So we also need to be careful about secondary source plagiarism. And here in this text, we do not see plagiarism, we see several quotations. The quotations are used in between double quotation marks, and the quotations are accompanied with the author's surname, date of publication, and page number. In terms of plagiarism, there is nothing wrong. However, in terms of academic writing, it cannot be acceptable. As you see, almost more than 50% of the text that we recognize here is directly coming from other sources. So what we need to do here is not plagiarism, but encouraging students to paraphrase these quoted expressions. Another example, this time, zero similarity. Do you think it is problematic to have zero similarity? Yes, probably. Probably we are in danger if we retrieve zero similarity for an assignment, because when we ask students to write especially academic papers, it means that they need to search for the relevant research and then refer to other sources to write their papers. So there must be matches between the relevant literature and the student paper. However, we see no matches here. What might be the reason? There might be several reasons actually. The first reason, okay, it is the failure of the text matching software, because they are not covered. I mean, the sources that the student is referring to are not covered by the text matching software. That might be the first possible explanation. And the others? Translation might be, okay, translated text might be the cases.
Stolen ideas. Stolen ideas using different words.
So paraphrasing again.
No. If someone has the same idea, if you write by your own, with your words.
Okay, paraphrasing the others' ideas without referring to them.
But it's not paraphrasing. I think in paraphrasing you change few words in one text. It's more sophisticated. It's paraphrasing, but it's very different. It's possible to have different methods to prove the same things, but nothing is possible to find in the text or the original source. It's except the same idea is in the same text.
Okay. When I retrieve zero similarity, I always download the original submitted file in order to see what there is in the Microsoft Word file. For example, the student might have the print screen of this text and then copy it and paste it into the Word document. However, not as an original Microsoft Word document. It's going to be a picture, therefore the text matching software will not be able to identify the similarities there. So there might be some other problems, as also you explained in your talk, using some other characters, adding something else in order to combat with the text matching software. So it's always a good idea to download the original material and then check from the dev. And finally, I'd like to also call your attention to the reference list. Do we expect matches in the reference list? So there is no problem.
No. If all the reference list is coming from another paper, then it should be a major problem.
Okay, it could be a major problem. This shouldn't be problematic because student benefits from other sources and the other researchers also benefited from these sources, but we see different colors here. But if we see all the reference entries in the references in the same color, it might be an indicator of, again, second-hand plagiarism. So in such instances, we had better talk to the student in order to ensure ourselves whether the student has written the assignment himself or translation. Yeah, or translation.
It's also the patience. If you have, for example, we have had some examples where someone is taken the same order, but references have been one reference and then the second reference has been moved to third place.
Okay, changing the order of index citations.
Yes, but it takes citations.
Okay.
And the second it takes citations. So it's possible to find translated things also in these.
So translation also works.
Yes.
Okay. It's good. What to conclude here today? Okay, text matching software might enable easy detection. However, we must be careful. The detection, the responsibility of the detection of plagiarism belongs to the lecturer, not the software itself. So we need to be carefully analyzing similarity reports. I'd like to thank you all for being here, and I'm happy to answer your questions if you have any.
Thank you. So we have still time for questions.
Salim, thank you very much for the presentation. I would like to make two suggestions because when I'm thinking about your presentation, the first one is the colors of the percentages. There is a suggestion that goes to the providers of software. I think it is important to get rid of the colors or of this type of colors. So like red color is a signal and it's a cultural meaning. And it's very dangerous to use the red color only for the high percentages. So they just choose something else what's not red and not green because of the meaning. But sometimes the 0% should be red, as Salim showed.
I think green might be more problematic in comparison to red.
Yeah.
When the student sees red, okay, there is something wrong, but when the student sees green, that okay, it's fine.
Yeah, so I would prefer to use no green and no red at all. So And the second one is that goes to all of us who are supporting departments when using text matching software. We should start a discussion about the meanings of the percentages and the percentages used for special assignments or for special subjects. Because in some of our work, we have completely different percentages that should be green or red. That's if you use the colors again. So let's say law, you work with legal texts and they are as they are. You have to use this material, and then if you have 10% matching, it should be red because it's two less matching. And in other subjects, it's completely different. So that's there's a lot of need to discussions and to support the users of the software.
So it shouldn't be based on, shortly, it shouldn't be based on the numbers.
Same numbers have completely different meanings in different subjects and in different departments. That's it. And we should tell them.
And also, Salim, just another suggestion is that when we use the text matching services, whoever uses, they need to be trained properly as well, because sometimes, like us, text matching services, they also evolve. When they start, the only thing they can do is the text match. But now they have included, for example, if you want, you can remove the references omitted. If you want, you can remove the first submission. So those are the things we need to be in touch with them. So the staff should be trained, always be trained with the advances they are going on as well.
Actually, that's what we discussed yesterday at the library, and we thought that it could be a good idea. Text matching software developers could train some librarians in order to help the academics at the university with the technical details. Probably they will do this.
So you haven't mentioned student use of the software.
Yeah, actually,
Did you? It was in there. Okay. Because I have very strong views about students using it. I've got no objection to students using it to help them formatively learn, particularly if it's under proper guidance. But what I do object to is students using it who have no understanding of what they're seeing. Because I think, well, I know that they will use it wrongly.
Sure. Again, it was the topic of the yesterday's speech. I developed a writing model for teaching academic writing, anonymous multi-mediated writing model in which students exchange peer feedback, and where students submit their assignments throughout the semester several times. So each time they submit their assignment, I enable them to see the similarity report, so they can see the failure there throughout the semester, not at the last minute, and then work on it, and then ask for help from me, and then revise it accordingly.
Thank you. Your examples were all from English language. Turkey is a big country, but how is the database for Turkish text to compare with? I mean, is there enough to compare your new work with this?
Since I've been involved in English language teaching department, I simply use text matching software with the English language. However, there are colleagues at my faculty and institution who use it for Turkish language, and it works. There are several text matching software products, and even there is an intention of developing our national text matching software. I have no idea about it, how it works, but the others all work very well with the Turkish language as well.
Thank you. So, thank you very much
My
for your
pleasure.
presentation.
Thank you for being here.